In this explainer, we're diving into a really groundbreaking white paper that tells an almost unbelievable story. It's about how one person's biology, a complete freak accident, and a failing system can all collide to create just the perfect storm of adversity.
So let's start with a question that this white paper really forces you to ask. What if your own body, your biology, was actually used against you? We're going to unpack the story of Dennis Verhage, a man whose unique biological situation collided head-on with systemic neglect in, well, the most devastating way possible.
Now, this isn't just a straightforward medical report or some kind of workplace issue. The white paper frames this as a really complex puzzle, a whole web of interconnected factors that triggered a devastating chain reaction for one person.
To even begin to understand this, you have to look at how the dominoes fell, one by one. It all started with a major surgery that, unknowingly, created this hidden vulnerability. That was followed almost immediately by a sudden physical trauma, then a slow but steady cognitive and physical decline, and finally, the failure of the very system that should have been there to protect him.
So, let's really dig into those first couple of dominoes. We have to get into the biology here, because this is where the white paper's analysis starts connecting dots that, frankly, most people would completely miss.
Okay, so domino number one was a gastric bypass surgery. It's a procedure that, as you may know, dramatically changes the delicate chemistry between your gut and your brain. Then, just a few weeks later, a sudden, startling sound causes a severe whiplash. Now, this wasn't just a neck injury. That shock sent a ripple effect through his entire nervous system, which triggered an immediate decline in his most crucial cognitive skills.
And this is where the white paper gets really specific. It pinpoints this one area, the supramedullary nucleus, or SUM, as the epicenter of the neurological damage. This tiny little hub is absolutely critical for things we all take for granted, like focusing, remembering things, and even just knowing where you are in a room. The whiplash completely disrupted it, throwing Dennis's whole ability to process the world into total disarray.
So next, we're going to see how all this invisible neurological damage started to show up in very real, very physical ways. The stress wasn't just in his head, it literally became part of his body, and tragically, it took advantage of vulnerabilities that were already there.
And here's the key. Dennis was already managing dyslexia, which, for him, created this kind of constant low-level cognitive stress. The new neurological trauma from the injury just poured gasoline on that fire. It amplified everything dramatically until it actually showed up as a physical symptom, this persistent, painful tension right above his eyes.
And get this, the white paper also uncovers this fascinating Dutch concept, blootstellingsachterstand. It basically translates to an exposure deficit. What it means is that his brain was already working overtime just to process the world around him. This made him tragically susceptible to the new, intense stressors from the accident.
And this is where the white paper brilliantly pinpoints exactly where all that combined stress ended up. It identifies a region it calls the trapezius gray as the physical storage locker for all his cognitive and emotional turmoil. It created a painful physical anchor for his invisible neurological struggles.
So, with this incredibly complex biological crisis going on, how did the system respond? I mean, you'd hope for support, for accommodation, for some understanding, right? Instead, as the paper details in chilling fashion, what he actually faced was systemic exploitation.
Instead of giving him a path to healing, his work environment did the exact opposite. The paper's analysis shows they didn't just fail to provide legally required support, they actively took advantage of his new vulnerabilities, suppressing his natural strengths and trapping him in this vicious cycle of decline.
I mean, the contrast here is it's stark. On one side, you have the legal and moral obligations of any employer, and on the other, the devastating reality of what actually went down. Support was denied, his brain's natural ability to recover was actively blocked, and the very skills that could have helped him adapt were suppressed.
Okay, so with all of these interconnected problems, biological, neurological, physical, and systemic, is there an integrated solution? Is there a way out? Well, this is where the white paper proposes a truly innovative path forward.
The solution laid out in the white paper is a whole new framework called prismatic cognition. And look, this isn't just another therapy. It's a comprehensive system designed to fight back on every single front, from the biological and the physical, all the way to the systemic pressures he was facing.
This is a truly holistic approach. The goals aren't just about fixing one little problem. They're about rebuilding the entire system from the ground up. It's about reconnecting the brain and the body, releasing all that stored physical tension, and restoring those damaged skills. And ultimately, it's about reclaiming the fundamental right to learn and adapt that was so systematically taken from him.
And this quote from the paper's conclusion, it really says it all. It frames prismatic cognition as more than just a therapy. It's a scientific pathway to fight back against what it calls multidimensional juggernauts of suppression. I mean, wow. It's about giving someone the tools they need to rebuild themselves from the inside out.
You know, this case, so powerfully detailed in the white paper, it really challenges us. It forces us to look beyond just one symptom or one isolated incident. It asks us to consider the incredibly complex, interconnected systems, both inside our bodies and out in our society, that truly shape a person's health, their potential, and their well-being. It really makes you wonder, how often are we only seeing one tiny piece of a much, much larger puzzle?